when I kicked this off, I wanted to say, or I thought I was going to say, hey, we finally made it. But I guess we knew we were going to make it, so it's a funny thing to say in this case, and that kind of plays into something I wanted to talk about in a second or two. But my gratitude, day 31, is easy. It's when like the whole family, the whole crew, and it doesn't have to be, it could just be you. Could be you plus animals. That's kind of how it is for us. Not any random animals, our pets. But when you all crash out on the couch, that's my favorite. The whole team crashes out unexpected on the couch. Maybe one of you wakes up and you kind of, do like a little half peer, a little half eye open, checking out everybody and making sure you don't move too much to wake everybody else up. But just unexpectedly crashing out on the couch. I think it's such a fun way to end the day because I feel like end of the days I have like so much routine to them. Wash the face, brush your teeth, blah, blah, blah. Pack your bag, get ready for tomorrow, go to bed, and probably sleep in the same side of the bed. And the crash couch out, I feel like, is like the adventure still continues, even in sleep. And I like that. I like that entire concept. And it's just really nice, comforting. I think it's a good feeling when you can let your guard down like that and everybody else just kind of feels the same way and you're all just out. So that's what I'm grateful for today. It was a cool 31 days of gratitude. I think one of the other things that I was thinking about for this was, and though yesterday we did talk about the little things, but in the 31 days of gratitude, there's so much. I think one of the cool things about this exercise, what it's a reminder for me, is how much gratitude is available throughout the day. If you just want to go like that gratitude fruit, if you just want to go pluck it off the tree, it's everywhere. You realize how grateful you are for so many things. Like you're grateful for the most random stuff, not random stuff. You're grateful for those things that you might often just take for granted because they just happen by due course of your daily life. You're grateful for the fact that you can just drive to, however 10, 15 minutes away. Someone will give you your favorite version of coffee that you want. The fact that, you're never more than X amount of minutes away from some simple daily thing that you really like to enjoy. You're grateful for the way your significant other dresses or talks to you or hugs you or listens to you. You're grateful for the fact that you're only one burpee away, one air squat away from taking care of yourself physically in terms of fitness and health. There's like so many of these tiny little things. And the reason I say tiny is because they, across many days, occupy our lives frequently. But in terms of like how much actual active voluntary thought we give them, they don't take up a ton of time. We've discussed this a lot. You're planning a big vacation, and that one single big vacation takes up a ton of mental energy and mental resources. You're giving it a lot of attention. But one of the really cool things about the gratitude exercise, and I was sitting down thinking about, final day of gratitude. What am I grateful for? It was the crashing on the couch for sure. But the other thing I just thought of is how many things there are to be grateful for. Maybe this varies person to person, how they actually feel about this. But like I said, what's cool about this exercise, I think you start to realize how much in your life you could be grateful for if you wanted to give it that attention. And that's a good feeling. That's a really good feeling. And I think it brings a lot of positivity. And I think for me, that's the real upside of this drill. As I was putting this together, when I really do this little exercise, one gratitude piece a day, I realize, one gratitude a day is the seed for hundreds, thousands of gratitudes throughout the day. And I believe there's a life enhancing potential there in that approach to what's going on around you. So that's where we're at. A couple cool little thoughts today. I was out kicking around. Really awesome weekend. We had technically a holiday today, but this podcast, the gratitude exercise, I saw this quote recently, and it was Pasos, corto, vista, larga. And I believe it means small steps, long vision, or short steps, long vision. And we've heard this in a lot of different ways. If you've been thinking about, how do you tackle problems, or how do you, think about moving through life toward a certain goal or something like that. Pasos, corto, vista, larga. And I really like it. I also like it because huge fan of, the Romance languages. I think everybody just sounds a little bit nicer. But short step, long vision. And for me, this podcast is a daily exercise and lesson in that. Checking the analytics, not as many people, not accumulated as many episodes. It's not quite what I want it to be yet. But when I also think about, 60 plus episodes, roughly 10 minutes an episode, that's a lot of time, over 10 hours of content, 10 hours of thoughts, 10 hours of effort toward this one little thing. It's pretty cool. And I like that. So keeping that concept, that advice of the short steps, long vision in your head regularly is really important. Because if it just becomes the long vision, you want to get there in 1 or 2 steps, that's oh boy, that's a challenge. You got a couple of those in you, It's like kind of those little lucky shots, little trick shots. You got a couple of those in you before those run out. And we're doing a bunch of house projects. And when I heard this quote, that kind of kept ringing in my ear. And what's so interesting about doing house projects is you want it to just happen so quickly, because you'll do something and now this one section of the house is at a disarray and you just want to rush through it. But when you rush through it, errors happen, issues happen, because they're going to happen inevitably, right? Because you're only human. You're not perfect. I'm certainly not perfect with this kind of stuff. But it's really neat when you take that approach of like, oh, well, I'm just going to take a bunch of small steps, but I'm going to have this long vision of what this is going to be. Each single step becomes more, when you focus on the step, not the vision, each single step becomes, for me, a lot more enjoyable. And also I feel like you execute better on each of those. And there are so many places in my life that I could apply this to. Work at home, working on myself, working on my home. That list is endless. And this kind of advice has showed up in a lot of different ways in my life. Eat the elephant one bite at a time. I mean, this is the whole, when they tell you in school, it definitely doesn't have the, the smooth, beautiful ring of this, or it's, not a nice, this kind of advice when they say the SMART goals, what is like short, actionable, something like that, measurable. SMART goals doesn't sound as cool as, short steps, long vision, but it's kind of the same thing. So that's been on my mind a lot lately, and I really like that phrase. That'll go down and get read frequently when I find myself having a little friction, struggling with some things. And because we struggle a lot with even the smallest of tasks. And that also made me think of something the other day. I was trying to figure out as I was walking around, and this quote was in my head. And when this quote was in my head, the short steps, long vision, I was thinking about the errors I make, how to fix them along the way as I'm moving toward the goal. And I was thinking about, you need humility as you go through this process, right? Because if you don't have humility, it's really hard to have this approach of short steps, long vision. But even when you have the short steps, long vision approach, you have to have the humility to keep working through it, because you are going to make mistakes. And I thought to myself, because you are only human. Okay, James. Yeah, that makes sense. You're going to make mistakes. And I think one of the most beautiful human qualities is, even as, weak and fragile, error prone, hypocritical as we can be, we really do have in spite of all of that, with these weak, fleshy bodies, we jump from, one opinion to the next. We say one thing to somebody that they shouldn't do this, and then we go around in a different environment. We do that exact same thing. That element of hypocrisy that we have. We believe one thing, think another thing, act a completely different thing kind of approach. That's who we are. We're humans. But I was thinking about that humility, that we don't know it all. We make these mistakes, and I thought of humanility. That's what humility is. It is for me, it is the acceptance that we are human beings and we are error prone. But, when I do feel like the people I meet who accept that very well, at the same time of being error prone, they're also very eager to just try again, to persevere. And that's been a big theme of this podcast for me, even at times when I don't want to record it. And it's funny because it's 10 minutes. Sometimes it's just rambly. There's no structure to it. But the act of continuously doing it, there's value in that for me. And, I'm able to squeeze a little bit of that value out and sprinkle it, inject it into other areas of my life. So that was the other thing that quote made me think of. Pasos, corto, vista, larga was humanility. It just is the state and quality of being human, accepting and being human, but also continuing to move forward, never forgetting that you are human, that we will make mistakes along the way, and that's okay, because we also have that very unique quality to persevere a lot if we choose to. So that's where we're at. Day 31 of gratitude, crashing out on the couch with the crew. The adventure continues. We'll probably take a couple days break. I don't know. We'll worry about the next thing when it's the next thing. But we'll take a couple days break from the little thought experiment. I have a new one I want to kick off, share. Something I've toyed around with at various ups and downs in my own life. So we'll get that rolling out. And the gratitude will for sure show up again. Like I said, I was just reminded, because I had forgotten, that when you do the gratitude exercise, you truly realize how much there is that you could be grateful for. You just got to make that choice to be grateful. So there we are. Super awesome, and appreciate everybody follow along, listening. Hopefully you got those gratitudes down on paper, and we'll see you soon.